In this video, we're going to be taking a look at Jacen Solo for the Legacy Collection. It's part of the final wave in the line, and he was Build-A-Droid number 59. So if you don't know anything about Jacen Solo, he is the son of Han and Leia. In the expanding universe, that is. Of course, now we have Kylo Ren to replace him, basically. Who's basically like, how do I rephrase it? Jacen Solo Light, I'll say that. So this appearance of him is during the Yuuzhan Vong War in the New Jedi Order book series. As you can see, the accessories around him are of Yuuzhan Vong. I'll get into the history behind these parts here in a little bit. So I consider both him and his twin sister Jaina Solo to be some of the centerpieces in my collection. They're action figures I always wanted since 2009. I never found them at all at the time. And one day in 2016, I just had to get on eBay, and despite the price point, I just went ahead and got both a Jaina and a Jacen. I didn't pay too much for them, actually. I ended up bidding for them, and I paid less than maybe about $70 each for them, brand new. Which is really not that bad, considering the prices that they normally go for, and there's not a whole lot of listings to choose from normally. Similar to the rest of the figures in this wave, they're both extremely expensive and probably some of the more sought-after action figures from the Hasbro Star Wars line to date. Would be nice for both of them to get a TVC figure, but I don't know, it's hard to say. Every once in a while they show up in a list, but even if we never get one, I think the action figure interpretation we have of Jacen and his twin sister Jaina, I'll bring out here right now, I think these are great action figures as is. They're some of my favorites, and I think they look very close to the characters. So their stories span several different books series within the expanded universe. So they're born at the very end of the Thrawn trilogy, and then they continue into the New Jedi Order book series, which is like a series of 10 books, I think it is. And then they go into a couple other books here and there. And then there's also the Legacy of the Force book series, which is 9 books. And I have read that entire series, and it's one of my favorites from the EU. A lot of people have some criticisms with it, and I can understand why that is. Gilad Pellaeon ends up getting taken out by Tahiri Vela, who is one of the childhood friends of Jacen and Jaina here. And of course, that's a whole mess of a story. Perhaps at some point I'll do a little bio about the Legacy of the Force book series. But it's a great series overall. I would highly recommend reading it. And at that point, that's when Jacen ends up becoming Darth Caedus, and that's a big story to that. Basically, Lumia here is the one who manipulates him to turn to the dark side and becomes his master in a way. But in that book series, both Jacen and Jaina are probably in their mid to late 30s at this point, and the appearances you're seeing them here in action figure form are probably in their teens and early 20s, I would say, just based upon the timeline of it. But in the EU, they're probably some of the most beloved characters. They have probably the most fleshed out stories out of several of the EU characters, even more so than a lot of the movie characters, quite frankly. And they also had a younger brother, Anakin Solo, of course named after Anakin Skywalker, and unfortunately he perishes during the Yuuzhan Vong War, and of course that's very devastating for them, and that does kind of contribute to Jacen Solo turning to the dark side later on. He was never really the same after that. And of course there's on Luke Skywalker and Mara, Jade Skywalker's side. I'll just bring them out here as well. I'll bring out the EU look here. Then I'll bring out Mara Jade's right here. They end up having a son as well, Ben Skywalker, of course named after Ben Kenobi. And unfortunately, we do not have an action figure of him to this date. I have seen some customs online of him, and I might get one at some point. But I would like to see Hasbro do a take on it. And then if we can just get Anakin Solo and then Ben Skywalker, I think that would pretty much complete the Skywalker lineage in that main timeline, that is. So very interesting. At some point I would like to do like a family tree video of the Skywalker line, going from Shmi Skywalker all the way down to Jacen and Jaina here. But today we'll just be focusing on Jacen Solo here. So without saying anything further, just take a closer look at him. So his outfit here is very similar to the Bespin Fatigues Luke Skywalker from Empire Strikes Back. And oftentimes I have seen customs of Jacen on eBay, and often that's the tooling and the body that's used, since those are much more affordable than Bespin Luke's. And then all you have to do is just get a new head for him. But there are some differences. So the head sculpt looks pretty good. Eyes are painted just fine. Hair sculpt looks really good. As far as the rest of his body is concerned, he's just pretty much wearing all brown. There are some pockets sculpted on his chest there. Yeah, we'll just remove this for a second. Some wrappings around his arm, it looks like. Yeah, probably the same for this one. Yeah. Then you have these, his belt is actually a separate piece here, instead of sculpted into the body. There's some nice detailing in that. There's that pouch there. There's a silver belt buckle. And we have his trousers here. Some pockets sculpted into that as well. And his boots. So this thing around his neck, I would assume is some type of Yuuzhan Vong. I know it's some type of Yuuzhan Vong accessory, but I'm not 100% sure what it is. I do know though, between these Yuuzhan Vong parts, he does wear them during the New Jedi Order series, and I think it somehow enhances his powers in the Force, makes him more in tune with it. So that's why he wears them. And you can't take it off, you would have to pop his head off though. In fact, we might just do that real quick, since he's on a ball joint there. And even without it, he looks pretty good. Doesn't really have giraffe neck. And this one around his wrist here, you just unwrap. So for articulation, he does have the ball joint at the head there, as you can see. He does have hinge at the shoulders, which have a really good range of motion there. And that's a very fluid joint as well. It doesn't feel like a ratchet or anything. It's very smooth. Does have hinge at the shoulders, about 90 degrees. Swivel wrist, joint at the torso, and swivel hips, and then hinge knees and hinged ankles. In terms of weapons and accessories, he does have his lightsaber here, which I think is unique to him. The hilt looks unique. Nice green blade, more of a light green. And there is not an unignited hilt, or you can't pull the blade out or anything like that. And there's no spot on his belt here where you can plug in a lightsaber. And for his other accessories, he has this Yuuzhan Vong part around his wrist. It looks like a snake. Some nice detailing in that. Then the one wrapped around his neck. It's a very soft and flimsy plastic as well. It does have some flex to it. Then for the more creature looking one, it kind of reminds you of like a warped staff or something like that. It does have the head at the end of there. If it focus here. Kind of looks like a dragon of some sorts. It has a tongue sculpted on it. It has its eyes there. It looks like the equivalent of hair. You have basically the tail at the end of here. It is easy enough to wrap this thing around him. And it's made in a way where you can wrap it around him. Something like that. Then for his last accessory, of course, his Build-A-Droid part, which in this case comes with the head. The bug eyes there. Reminds you of a fly or something like that. Exposed wiring there. And I think now we're just down to the torso and one arm, which I'm pretty sure the torso belongs to the Jacen figure. And we'll put this back together real quick. Thankfully it's easy enough to pop the head off. Wrap this thing around him. There's not really a particular way to do it. Something like that looks pretty good. Solid looking action figure. Bring out his sister again here. Get her own video next. And I guess we'll bring out his uncle as well. You know, look really good together. This is why another thing I really like about Star Wars action figure collecting, especially if you're a fan of this era in Star Wars, seeing these characters all together and interacting with one another, it's like, oh, that's really nice. We definitely got a great amount of expanded universe characters in action figure form from the post-Return of the Jedi timeline. But anyways, I think that's pretty much all I can tell you about Jacen Solo here. So would I recommend him for your collection? Yes, but he is very expensive, I'll tell you that. A lot of times when I say expensive, it ends up being like in the $50 or $100 range. This guy can sometimes go up in the 200s, I say these days, which is outrageous. Of course, he's a character that's very high in demand, and he did not have a huge production run. Same with his sister. So there's that gap in the market, I suppose. Because of that, it makes for a very expensive price. If you do find them for a decent price, though, even if you found them for less than $100, I would say you should jump on this. It's a solid action figure. He's one of my personal favorite characters in the EU. Even if you don't know a whole lot about the character, he's a solid one action figure to have in a collection anyway. Fits in with a Jedi collection. Has a lot of nice tooling about him, a lot of nice accessories. He's probably one of my favorite action figures in all Star Wars action figure history, quite frankly. Between him and his sister, they're both centerpieces for me, and I cherish them greatly. But anyways, that concludes this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for plenty more reviews in the future. Always be more to come. If you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I always appreciate all your support. And check out the links in the description if you haven't done so already. As always, thanks for watching.